I am a real estate attorney, developer, and manager with a strong focus on residential in San Francisco. Um, I've been doing development for the better part of 15 years now. Our wheelhouse, our kind of bread and butter has been multifamily, anywhere from, boutique 35 unit apartment buildings to 120 unit communities. All of that mostly in San Francisco. We've looked to kind of incorporate, I'd say, the most pragmatic, cutting edge technology in our buildings that our residents and our clients, as we like to call them, genuinely enjoy, right? And going to use. So practical year-end tech. We were working with Butterfly from the very beginning. In fact, we were working with Door King when we started back in 2014. Then we made the pivot to Butterfly, I'd say about 5 or 6 years ago, probably closer to 5 and 6, starting at 6th Street. And then we kind of did everything retroactive from there for our past building. And then once we were looking at 4742 Mission, I was talking to, at that point, David Thomas put us in contact, and he says, hey, these guys are really interesting. You're doing some really cool things. Saurabh, who leads Swiftlane, has an engineering background, which is actually super important for me, which means you understand the nuts and bolts of everything. You pretty much design the entire system, but pretty much yourself, which is both kind of incredible and also, from our perspective, kind of, we certainly appreciate that. If something goes wrong, we know the person at the very top really understands the system, right? So I thought that was really compelling. We had a couple of calls and meetings, and then we did 18 Alameda with you guys. I think that was a very smooth process. And Dave, I think you can speak more to that. And then so once that was success, and I built 4742 Mission, got my CFC, plugged you guys in there as well, and the experience was likewise very smooth.
First, I'd like to say working with Sam has been very smooth. He's very knowledgeable and just answered all my sometimes paranoid questions on the spot. I can be a little paranoid with how, looking at both sides of the coin, how property manager and how resident may use Swiftlane. And so he's been very, very friendly and open with his answers. And it's been actually calm a lot of my concerns from the get-go, at least starting off with Alameda, which was our first building where we implemented it. He was very, very helpful with explaining the nuts and bolts and the ins and outs and how to get it installed, how the user interface, how the residents will use it, how we use it as property managers. Very helpful. And it's been true too. So tenants have, there's always a learning curve in phasing into a new system, but it seemed to move pretty smooth. The facial recognition, the manual entering the pins, the app swiping with the app, it's all been very, very easy. Once the tenants get a hang of it, haven't had an issue with it at all. And also, I love that the camera has a very wide lens or wide angle lens. Helps with identifying who is actually coming in. For security reasons, it's a huge help. And I think with how it's working, or how we see it working at Potrero, would also, because as we speak right now, Sam's there installing the new intercoms at Potrero, and we were just talking about that, and he says we should be able to get a clear shot of whoever's accessing the door this time versus what has been going on with Butterfly. Sometimes we just don't even see a face, we just see a hand. So the wide angles have been a huge help. Also, as for overall just kind of maintenance, there's been very minimal maintenance needed. When something goes down, which is inevitable, an easy reset is all it takes for Swiftlane. I mean, literally just pull out the plug, wait a minute, pull it, push it back, and it's running. So it's a great
And how does that experience compare to Butterfly? Anytime it goes down,
Yeah.
after troubleshooting service.
Right. Sometimes it works with just cycling the power for Butterfly. And there's times it doesn't. And that's when I'm having to call tech support, wondering what's going on. We haven't had that kind of back and forth with tech support with Swiftlane. The power goes down, or if it just stops working one day. We just manually unplug it, cycle power, unplug it, and it's going to create.
So since we installed an 1830 element and 4742, and I think collectively between those two assets, like Swiftlane has been up and running now in aggregate for whatever 18 to 24 months. You've never had to call or email support.
Initially, I called Sam about it. He said, just reset it.
Just power cycle.
Just power cycle it.
Yeah.
It's really it. And it's a relief for us property managers, because it's something that is low intelligence. You can just go. So anything, or like maintenance guys, I can go in there and do it myself. You don't need to know about it. You just very simple process. So that's what help just in that, because we don't need specialized knowledge. We can just do it. So if there was like a power outage or something like that, we would have a longer wait time for it to get back online. This one, it seems once the power's on, for power, we may or may not even need to recycle or cycle the power for Swiftlane, and it'll start again. They're happy. They actually are. There's no complaints. I think a lot of it's just getting used to a new system. They do like the facial recognition. It helps. It's a new, it's something new, and it's kind of like new bells and whistles that are with. This is definitely heads and shoulders beyond like door key. There was a lot more security concerns with those. Yeah, I haven't had any sort of concerns with tenants. And it's also, I should say, it's easy for us as property managers to go in the back end and make adjustments, change, create accounts and whatnot. So it's been, it's pretty simple for property managers to work on the back end.
Yeah, I think it's close to, I'm very excited between, small that we're going to be having with you guys, about 35 units at Franklin. The biggest is Alameda that you guys already have, which is 120 units. 363 are about 105 units a piece, but that's functionally one community, so you can call that about 210 units. Yeah, I can speak on that. I think from an owner's perspective, like we're also very concerned. Resident satisfaction is, and property manager, I should say, satisfaction is really important, but also the bottom line impact, I think is something worth stating and emphasizing. Butterfly charges like a per unit fee. And so for your bigger properties, especially, it makes a lot more sense when you can go with a much smaller monthly fee, but there's still going to be significant savings. It's going to impact both your valuation and obviously your margins moving forward. When it comes to onboarding like smaller new assets, I think that's probably where people are going to have the most amount of hesitation. It's going to be that break-even point, right? But I think when it comes to new developments, at least for me, it's a no-brainer, right? The equipment, I think it's superior, right, for a better price and for a better ongoing fee, if any. For like the existing stuff, I think sometimes maybe owners, and this is more for our internal dialogue than for like the testimonial, I think they might have like a bit of an issue with like the sunk cost fallacy, right? They're like, oh, well, we really have this equipment here. We don't want to get rid of it. We just invested in this whole controlled access ecosystem like 5 years ago. If you look at the numbers, right, yet again, depending on what the unit count is, I think the ROI is compelling. It's going to make sense regardless, right? What that unit threshold is, like, I know for instance, 100 units, like 345, 363, like that's going to pay for itself within 2 years. Like, for something like 22 Franklin that has only 35 units, it's going to take about 5 years to pay. You're going to get a valuation bump, right? So if you're thinking about exiting that and selling it at some point, that, you know how to do the math on that, selling cap rate of whatever, 5.5, you divide it, that's going to be your gravy. So let's say you're going to be saving $3,000 a year. You divide that by 0.055, and you add about $55,000 in value of your property. Right? On the flip side, let's say you're not going to sell it, but you're going to refinance it. and you're going to read for whatever 55% loan to value. So, I mean, just slopping back, you're talking about you're going to be able to get an extra 25, 30K out of a refi, right?
If you can fix 90% of the issues, remotely, I would probably handle it at least 50% of what I had. What I can think of the difference with durability. For keypads, let's say we've had multiple keypads go down from Butterfly like over the years, and we get replacements, and they don't always work. But this is an issue that we haven't had so far. Of course, we've had Butterfly a little longer, but at the moment, we haven't had, our intercoms, power issue. We're not, it's a great help for us, for property managers and tenants as well. So I would say durability. The parts we're using don't seem to be more long lasting. You know what I mean? That's one thing off the top of my head I could say. I'll tell you the difference between the two.
Speaking to one of your earlier points, the additional security too, right? Wide angle lenses throughout people's faces as they're using doors is probably very beneficial. The added features are really nice, and I'd say that again from a vendor's perspective, the additional value they tap into either on sale or refi, and reduction in OPEX year over year.